What's up, Instagram, Facebook, Instagram Live at 5. We're excited to join with you. We have a bunch of questions to answer today. So we're going to go on ahead. We're going to jump into these questions so that we can continue on. So thanks so much for continuing to send in questions. We'll make sure to answer them for you, and then we got a short little devo, so we hope that you stick with us throughout the duration of this video. First question sent in by Aaron Bingham. She said, why is Aaron so cool? Aaron, you are so cool because it is a product of your parents being cool. So thank your mom and dad. A little bit of their cool may have rubbed off on you. So that is the first one we are going to answer. There are a lot of questions here today. Let's see. All right, Max Phillips, shout out to Max. Max asked, what is my favorite Christian song? Favorite Christian song. Now, this is difficult. A lot of good ones out there. I would say that my favorite hymn is Amazing Grace. It's hard to get past the classic. I think that song resonates. It's even cross-cultural. So I think Amazing Grace, that would probably be my favorite Christian song as far as hymn. Now, as far as contemporary, I would probably go with my favorite song right now is probably Waymaker, because it just really touches on what God does in my life. He has made a way through so many things. So I'd say favorite song, contemporary, would be Waymaker. Allison Bingham asked, if I were to have another job other than student ministry, what would it be? First off, so glad I don't have to think about this in real life, because I can't imagine being anything else than a pastor. But in preparation for my future, before I surrendered to the ministry, I was really looking into more of like computer type stuff. So like every computer class my school offered, I took: computer aided draft 1 and 2, basic programming, innovations and inventions, all of those classes. And so I would probably be in some dark, windowless building doing soulless work if I wasn't a pastor. So thank God he called me out of that life. And so that's what I'd do if I had another job. Let's see. Crystal asked, what cartoon character do I relate to the most? So Crystal Barker sent that in. I would probably say if I had to relate to a cartoon character, it would be Charlie Brown. So think about it. Charlie Brown, he's constantly trying to kick that football. It's pulled out. He falls down. But what does he do every time? He gets back up. And so I think he's a very relatable character in, man, life throws you curveballs sometimes. Sometimes your chair's pulled out from under you, but you got to keep getting back up and getting to it. So I would say cartoon character would be Charlie Brown. Kelly Evans sent in, so I'm finished up with my doctor degree, and she asked, what do I want people to call me now that it's official I'm a doctor? So she sent in some examples: Dr. Ryan, Dr. Keaton, Doogie Howser. I would say call me Ryan. Let's not get weird about this. And so Kelly, just call me Ryan. Anything else is just weird. All right, Gracie McEarl sent in. This might be my favorite question of the week. Gracie McEarl asked, if I shaved my golden retriever to look like a lion, would other dogs respect him more? Now, I don't know how respect works on the streets with these dogs, but I will say this: living in your neighborhood, if I come running around the corner past your house and your dog comes running out barking at me looking like a lion, chances are he's going to get a lot of respect from me. So I don't know about the other dogs in the neighborhood, but I know about me as your neighbor. You will never see a white boy run so fast or jump so high. So please don't shave your dog to look like a lion, because you might murder your youth pastor if you do. All right. Jordan Smith asked, what is my favorite all-time movie? And then what snack do I like to eat with it while I watch it? Favorite all-time movie. I don't care what movie you watch. What is your favorite? If your favorite is not this one, you're wrong. I won't forgive you. It's Sandlot. Sandlot is the greatest movie to ever come out. There's no argument. And the best thing to watch with any movie is obviously a popcorn and a regular Coke. And so that's my go-to movie to watch, and that's what I eat or drink with it. Haley has come up with some interesting questions each and every week. And so Haley's question for this week is Jell-O a fruit? Now, the definition of a fruit, we have to go back to definitions, remember, it is a product or produce that involves seeds that come from a tree. So I looked up what Jell-O is, and thank you, Haley. You may have ruined it where I will never eat Jell-O again because I did not know what Jell-O was made of, and now that I do, gross. This is what Jell-O is. It is a colorless, flavorless product that is extracted from animal bones and animal tissue that is then made into collagen that's made into the powder form that makes our Jell-O. So gross. By that definition, no, Jell-O is not a fruit, and I don't know for sure if Jell-O should be edible. So that's disgusting. Thanks, Haley, for ruining Jell-O for everyone. So Jell-O, I would say no, Jell-O is not a food. Not a food maybe, but it's definitely not a fruit. Let's see what other questions we have here. All right. Nathan Lewis sent in one of the most difficult questions anyone can answer. Caleb Halters, he's running out to buy him some Jell-O. Nathan Lewis has asked, if God knows everything, so that means he knows the actions and choices that we are going to make, do we truly have free will? That's a difficult question. I will say this. I think that there are many scriptures that continually point to the fact that you and I have free will. So you see in Joshua tells the people, choose for yourself this day who you will serve. You see multiple opportunities in the Bible where it talks about, like Paul, for example, should we continue to sin so that grace may abound? And he then goes, absolutely not. Multiple authors would show us that we dictate the choices that we make, whether we choose to do good or bad. So to go into this, since God knows it, do we truly have free will? Now, we're inside of time. God is outside of time. And I'll say this, my finite brain, I can't understand that. I can't begin to explain how a God outside of time can understand things inside of time. But I'll say this. This is how I've heard it explained, and I think this is the best way you could explain it to somebody else. Okay, say a football game comes on Sunday morning at noon. You weren't able to watch that football game, and so you recorded it. And before you were able to watch it, you knew that the Tennessee Titans won 21-17. You know the outcome. You maybe even know that Ryan Tannehill threw 27 for 42 for 203 yards, and you knew that the rushing total was 400 yards, whatever. You know the outcome. When you go back and watch the game, predetermination doesn't eliminate free will. Yes, predetermination doesn't, but if you know the outcome of the game, it doesn't change the fact that the players still in the game were involved or were over the skills and the abilities that they did. Now, if you don't agree with that answer, that's the best I can do. And so if you can explain it better, write it in the comments, shoot your own Devo video. That's all I got for you for that. Yeah, you could get into the apologetics of that. We could talk about that one question until Jesus comes back, and then we can ask him about it. Let's see. Hannah asked, when will our next Zoom meeting be? Good question. Don't really know. We're going to put a poll out on our Instagram story right after this. And so if you're joining us, make sure to check our Instagram story here in the next little bit. We're going to put out a poll for what's best for you, and we will make sure maybe sometime this weekend we'll have another Zoom meeting so we can hang out. Shout out to Isabel for winning our Zoom game. You should be getting a prize in the mail soon. And so yeah, I think that's all the questions that were asked. I don't think I skipped over any. If I did, make sure to ask it again. We will make sure to answer it next week. Kind of making a transition, shifting. So starting last week, we talked about this idea of the average Joe. And so we, a lot of times when we when we think about our Christian walk, when we think about our relationship with God, when we read the Bible, we make these biblical characters into be these larger than life figures that we can never live up to. And so when we think about our relationship with God and we think about faith and following Him and all of those things, if you're anything like me, a lot of times I set unrealistic expectations when it comes on my life. And one of my favorite, chapters of the whole Bible is Hebrews 11 in the Hall of Fame of Faith in the Bible. And so you have in this these heroes of faith, and what you really have is these average Joe men and women who just were faithful and trusted in God. And because of that, you see that they changed the world. And the one that I want to talk about today, we don't know a whole lot about him except this, is that he trusted God enough that he gave his first fruit and he sacrificed the best. And that was Abel. The first murder we see in the Bible was Cain killing Abel because Abel's sacrifice was pleasing to God and Cain's was not. And so what did Abel do? Well, the Bible tells us in Hebrews 11:4 that by faith Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain did. And by faith he was approved as a righteous man because God approved his gifts, and even though he is dead, he still speaks through his faith. That's so crazy to me. We don't know really anything about Abel's life except for this fact, that they were supposed to make sacrifices to God because of their sin. And it says that Abel gave of the first fruit, of the best of his. And it says that Cain really didn't have any respect for the sacrifice, and so he just kind of gave it because he had to. And so God accepted Abel's sacrifice, and he didn't accept Cain's, which makes me really want to think about and talk about today this idea, the idea of leftovers. If you're anything like me, and especially during this quarantine, man, we have lived off of leftovers. We will cook on Sunday, and we'll eat those all week pretty much. We'll make sure to cook in large portions and we'll just reheat it. But you and I can both agree that food is better unless you're dealing with like chili or something like that. Food is better fresh. Right off the grill, right out of the oven. Man, food is better when it's fresh. When you have a guest over, you're not going to serve a guest leftovers. You are going to make sure that the guest is taken care of. You're going to produce for them something fresh and new. But what happens so many times is in our relationship with Jesus, we offer him the leftovers of our life. So what do I mean by that? So we might say, God, this is what I'll give you. I'll give you what's left over of my time. So right now we have all the time in the world, it seems, because we're stuck at home. But when you get back to where you can go back to school and back to sports and back to all those things, are you going to go back into the habits where you give God the leftovers of, God, after I finish my homework, God, after I go to ball practice, after I spend time with my friends, after I spend time with my boyfriend and girlfriend, God, then I'll give you time. God, then I'll focus on my relationship with you. Or your money. After I make sure I go to the movies and I eat at Zimba's a few times this week and I get some of that fire Southwest burrito from Baja with the extra queso, God, then I'll make sure to give you the money that you deserve. God, I know that you tell me to use my gifts and abilities, and after I use them to promote myself so far, then I'll live my life how you want me to live. God, I'm going to live it up in middle school, high school, college, but then when I get a family, well, God, now that I have a family, I got to get my kids to a certain level. God, after my kids get, and then before we know it, we've given God our leftover time, our leftover resources, our leftover money, and the best that God ever gets from us is leftovers. What if you and I had the faith to say, God, I know that it seems like I don't have a lot of time, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of skills and gifts and abilities, but I'm going to give it to you first. And then after I give it to you, whatever's left over, I'll give to the rest of the world. But God, you're getting my first fruit. What if we decided to be like Abel and say, you know what, I'm going to have enough faith in God that I'm going to give him my best. My encouragement for you today is, are you heating up leftovers for God, and that's what you're serving to him? Or are you giving him your very best? Are you being an average Joe who is just phoning it in and you're just saying, you know what, I may or may not be working on my relationship with God today? Or are you going to be a person who says, you know what, today I'm going to be, yes, I'm a regular, average Joe, everyday person, but I'm going to have an above average faith that doesn't serve God leftovers. I'm going to give him the first of everything I have, and I'm going to let him use it how he wants to. I hope that today you are not serving God leftovers. I hope that today you're giving him the first of your time, of your money, of your resources, of your skills, gifts, abilities, everything. Give that to God and see if he won't do a tremendous work in your life. Man, I'm so glad that we've been able to connect through Instagram Live every Wednesday at 5. This video will be posted live here in the next little bit, so you can go back, share it. Make sure to share it. Help us to connect with your friends on social media. Right now, we can't meet in person, but this is a great tool. Every single day at noon, we've been posting daily devotionals. They're not just from me. They're not just from our staff, man. Some of you have posted some of our small group leaders. We've had some of our partners from the Tennessee Baptist Mission Board, Mission of Hope, Strength to Stand, who's came, and they've spoken words of encouragement to you. So help us to connect people on Instagram. If you know a friend who needs these words of encouragement daily, man, tag them in one of our posts. Send it to them. And then make sure, if you're not signed up for our text messages, sign up for that. Go back to our post that we posted on Sunday about Zoom so you can sign up for our text messages and so you can connect with us in that way. And we will send out a link about connecting again in Zoom here soon. Man, we can't wait until we can meet again in person. But until then, man, thank you for meeting with us on social media. We don't take it for granted. Man, I love you. I've been praying for each of you individually. Man, if you've ever come to Sunday school here, if you follow us on Instagram, I promise you, your name has been prayed for by me specifically. So, man, keep living life, hold in there, and have the faith to not give God your leftovers. We'll see you again soon.